Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the USS Callister? Not Enterprise? Okay. Well, it's got an ongoing mission. Seek out new life, a new civilization, and boldly go where no one has gone before. Roll titles. Silly 60s inspired intros aside, this is the return of Black Mirror. We're at season 4 now, and this is USS Callister, with Jesse Plemons, Christine Milioti and Jimmy Simpson, who, like Ben Barnes, seems to be following me outside of Westworld into other material. I'm not going to complain, it's good, and it's good for them, of course, they're getting work, so, that's always something positive. But everyone, I think, brought their A game. You can tell people were enjoying themselves, and you do get in film and TV where one person's doing well on a day and everyone else raises to that level. I think this is potentially what happened here. Everyone really seems to be bringing their best self to the performance. But the intro, the teaser, it really brought us into an original series kind of world. And yeah, okay, the command colour's red, not gold, a bit more TNG. But of course with the blue it is the colours that we expect from Starfleet, so Spacefleet are following the model. And Jesse Plemons brings a wonderful William Shatner impression, I think, in the teaser. It dissipates throughout the episode, it becomes a little less polished, a little less Shatner-esque, as they kind of delve more into the dark of this episode, if you will. But like I keep saying, let's not get ahead of ourselves. This has a lot of Easter eggs and callbacks and meat to really tackle, I think, throughout the episode, and I feel the best way to do that is to look mostly, in sequence, occasionally sidetracking and covering off at the end. So first of all, yes, we have callbacks, we have Easter eggs, and they are plentiful in this and this entire season. It feels very much like it's not a greatest hits, but certainly a way of recognising what's come before. Even to the fact that Christine Milioti does look a little, at least to me, and I've looked at pictures just to see if I was going crazy, but she does look a little like Una Chaplin, who played Greta, the cookie woman, in the Christmas special. I think this could be potentially intentional. I'd like to think it is. I like the way Brooker's mind works, and I think I understand it, and I think it would be an intentional thing, because this again deals with digitising a person's consciousness. And the rights therein, what rights do they have, etc. So, like I say, I'd like to think that was intentional. Certainly the similarities between Callister Incorporated and Saito Gemu, who made the software and hardware in playtest, I think there's a definite parallel there. I think it's pretty obvious. And of course the spiders, or spider-influenced things that exist in this episode as well. It all seems to call back to that as much as anything. The fact that it is such an immersive world where it's just basically your mind is going on this journey, but you can feel it, you can interact, everything feels real, or as real as possible, even though you've never left your seat. Of course, in this it is real time, time does pass, which is why, he goes and gets the pizza, etc. And I don't think it would have worked if time didn't pass properly. They wouldn't have had the time at the end. But it's not the only callbacks and hints. I mean, there's a moment of sort of perhaps me being a bit over-observational, where when Nanette first wakes up, we see MB4. Reverse that. 4th season of Black Mirror. Am I stretching? Very probably. But it's the kind of things that, I do notice and do like to pick out, and, even if it's an accident, it's still worthwhile. It's still a fun little observation to make. But of course, after his heroic introduction as Captain Robert DALY of the USS Callister, we learn that the real Bob DALY, CTO of Callister Incorporated, is thought of as creepy. He's a weirdo, he's a nerd. You can't, develop such a great bit of software without being a bit of a nerd, really. And unfortunately, James WALTON, his partner in the company, gets all the glory. It's like Bob's the work, James is the glory, and it's a shame. It is a shame. We do see it, unfortunately, in companies, where there's a partnership, but it's really very one-sided. And we are, I think, meant to sympathise with him, at the start, and how Nanette really kind of appreciates him. She adores his mind, if nothing else. And of course, later on we do find that, people find him a bit starey, to literally quote. But I think still Nanette feels sorry for him. And okay, feeling sorry for someone isn't as good as, actually feeling respect and proper admiration. But she still wants to be kind. I do get that feeling. But because of how Bob's been treated, he makes the wrong decision. And like everyone else in the company who is felt slighted by, he makes her a crew member. And this is really where the sympathy for Bob starts to wane. He makes it very hard to feel sorry for him when we see the kind of things that he has done and that he will do. Nanette's come into this unaware. She's got no idea, and he just expects her to, snap to attention, just get on with it, be a member of the crew, or suffer the consequences. And it only takes the rest of them going, okay, give her some time here. She's not spent ages getting used to this world. She needs some lead-in time. She needs some, acclimatization. And I think it's great that she is the character to be the architect, I guess, of Bob's downfall. It's a great analogue for us as an audience to come in with. Not only is she new to this world, but she's having these ideas of how can I rise above? How can I make this better, or even escape it if possible? And it's that kind of conflict that obviously, drives great drama. And it's what I think keeps us going. Even though we're seeing all these horrible things that Bob will do, it keeps us hopeful. And it's weird to use the term hopeful and Black Mirror to a lot of people, but I do think, as a general rule, it is hopeful. And I think this season certainly does highlight the hope as much as the horror, and the humour. And the moment that the humour is really brought into focus, it really becomes a big thing, is also the moment that the horror really starts to set in. This was a great idea. We need the levity to accept the darkness. If it was just constantly, this man's doing horrible things, and we see that every single person in this world, in his own version of the game, is someone who's wronged him, and he's exacting revenge in cruel and unusual ways, it'd just be so breaking to us. It would be hard to watch. It would be awful. But because we get some levity, we get some fun, we get some jokes, it's easier to swallow. It's not such a bitter pill. And I think one of the greatest bits of humour in the entire episodes is what I'm calling the Ken doll scene.
There's no genitals in Spacefleet. This is a wholesome universe.
He must have modified our code that way.
We're all the same. You don't believe me? Take a look down there.
We have tried grinding our mounds together out of sheer boredom. No sensation at all.
As well as being a very funny scene, which is why I've included it, it also, I think, speaks to DALY's obsession, his need to capture every tiny detail. Now again, his source material is Spacefleet, itself inspired by Star Trek. The original series gave us our first on-screen interracial kiss. That was a big deal back then. And I don't think we get a homosexual kiss for another 20 plus years. So this was a big thing. So of course, these characters wouldn't be equipped in the writers' minds, if you will. And therefore, this is what DALY's replicating. He's recreating that. And I think it's a very interesting idea. Of course, They also, mention other bodily functions that they can't do either, and I'd love to know where all the drink's going that they keep having, but let's not go there. Let's not delve into that. That could get messy. I don't want to think about it too hard. But one of the other things they captured of the era is the melodrama. We see it particularly after he's paused on the planet with, Valdak and the Arachnojacks. He comes back and Jimmy Simpson's there all like, oh my god, we're all gonna die. And that was of the time. It was actually accurate. Now, I do have a theory on this, a little side lesson in melodrama. A lot of the overacting and the makeup and things like that are hangovers from theatre. Think about it on a theatre. Up at the back, if it wasn't projected and overacted a little, you might miss the nuances. So everything had to be a little more. And you still see it sometimes in theatre productions today. But with technology being as it is, you can have like cameras trained so you can have a big screen and you can see the people there. You've got them with, headset mics and things like this just, over the ear. So they don't need to project as much. So a lot of that sort of melodrama, that overacting, I guess, has gone. And all of these kind of things, I think, were carried over into the early days of television when they didn't think about the technologies that they could use. Now, as I say, I think we've lost a lot of that, and I think even the reason that some of these technologies have gone into the theatre is because people have come into television acting without needing these skills. So I think it's been more of a case of necessity in those cases. But by the by, that was a little sidetrack of melodrama and overacting. But of course, like I say, Jimmy Simpson does it great, and he, I think, gets some of the best performances in this entire episode. One of his other performances, which I thought was amazing, is when he's talking about what happened with Tommy. The way his voice cracks, the way the tears are there, this is acting. It's easy to say someone's a great actor, but I've always said that you can judge an actor by how they cry and how they deliver soft moments. Anyone can be booming and dramatic. You can put it on, you can do it. But the soft moments are what count. And he got me. I'm not ashamed of it. When he was talking about Tommy being jettisoned out the airlock and, the skin cracking like a porcelain doll, etc. It was heartbreaking. And, whilst everyone, as I said before, brought their A game, I think his performance in this was amazing. And I mean, obviously we've seen it, with Billy as well. He's obviously got a great range, and I really think this guy needs to be in more things. But this isn't, let's all bow down to Jimmy Simpson, actor extraordinaire. This is USS Callister, so obviously, we go through the plot, and, obviously we figure out how, or not we figure out, of course, they figure out how to escape, how to use this update patch wormhole, which I thought was a great idea, using that as the, like an in-universe explanation for what happens during update patches and things. And, of course, managed to get out. Get free of this world, make it actually reconnect to the main servers and kind of mess up Bob's whole plan, mess up his whole skin on top. It's a rogue universe and must be deleted. Now, there are questions I think that could be raised of, could you say that these virtual people could be guilty of murder? If we think back to the Christmas episode, someone made a very great point on the Christmas episode video about this idea with cookies, where there is a bit of an inconsistency in so many ways. If a cookie can be used in that episode to basically give a confession, is it not then human enough to be considered cruel to torture it for 1,000 years like they do? And in similar ways in this episode, we feel sympathy for these people, so are they murdering Bob at the end by, the controls being disabled? I think no. I think it's manslaughter at best. And their intention was not to kill him. Their intention was to, which is obviously why they send the real Nanette, to get their DNA samples of the real them and escape, so that he couldn't recreate them and they would be free. Dead, possibly. But his death was not planned. It was a side effect. And really, if he hadn't been so controlling, if he hadn't gone back in and tried to chase them down, if he'd have just gone, you know what, I give up, right, I'll just have to recreate you, it wouldn't have happened. So like I say, I think it's manslaughter at best, because there was no intent. It was an accident. It was a side effect. So of course, you know, they go through the wormhole. Everything is restored in more ways than one, if you get me. And they come out to the New Trek style world with the Abrams flares and everything. Nice touch. But it does lead us back into the overarching idea of the rights of the virtual person. You know, it's something that I really love. Talked about it earlier in this video and previously with Black Mirror and other things. I really love the topic. I think it's got a lot of meat to it as we improve our technology, as we reach the singularity when AI surpasses us and overtakes us. It's something we need to look at, you know, something we need to analyse, I think, in our real world, and I think things like this are a great way to start tackling the idea and start thinking about it. I would contest, more so at the end, you know, once they are as close to their flesh and blood counterparts as possible, their rights should be almost the same as a flesh and blood human. There's going to be things that they don't need, there's going to be certain things that they will need added. But otherwise, it's going to be pretty similar. Same with a cookie. I think there's going to be certain rights that they're not going to need, certain rights that are going to have to be added to them, but they're going to be pretty close to a flesh and blood human because they are almost a perfect recreation of their mind. So it's great that it handles these topics well. You know, it started out kind of weird, and is it going to carry on in this Trek vein? The promotional material did really well to hide it. You know, the fact that we'd be spending so much time in the real world. The performances were great, like I say, and it just made us laugh. It made us really get emotionally invested, particularly in Tommy's story and such. It made us really feel for these people. Our allegiances changed. We went from, oh, poor Bob, to, oh my word, this man is evil. And we really felt for the rest of the people here. You know, maybe not the real world versions. I think James Walton is a selfish so-and-so. You know, to kind of shut Bob out of all the glory, even though without his work it wouldn't have happened. His concession was letting him name the company. Oh, whoop-de-doo. But, you know, it gives us all this, it makes us feel. And I haven't even got to all of the Easter eggs yet. You know, I think we've covered off the meat of the matter. But there are a couple of things I do want to touch on. You know, I've obviously touched on the earlier stuff, but there was one particular one that was really bugging me. The names of the planets. It's Rannoch B, I think, and Scalane 4 or something. I've probably got them on screen now to prove me wrong. But it really stuck in my brain. I was like, these names are familiar for some reason. And when I went away and looked into it, I, of course, remembered Victoria Scalane and Ian Rannoch were the abductors and murderers of the girl in White Bear. Victoria Scalane is the woman we spend our time in that episode with, the one who's on the run at this Justice Park. When I realised that, I was like, this is the callback of all callbacks. It's such a small detail, and it's something that I really appreciate. Something that keeps my analytical brain going and loving it. But of course, we also get call forwards. In a couple of episodes' time, we have Crocodile, which involves an accident with a fence's automatic delivery van thing. And who is the pizza company that delivers to Bob's apartment? Oh yeah, Fences. There are so many seeds sown forward, as well as callbacks throughout the entirety of Black Mirror, and it's kind of a reason that we come back, as well as the stories, of course. But, you know, I do recall that Netflix commissioned 12 episodes, which we've had now. We've had 2 6s. And this could well be a culmination. A lot of the stuff that we see, you know, in this episode and in subsequent episodes do kind of have a tying up loose ends feel in some cases. And there's a lot of these callbacks, you know, I think more than there's ever been, if I'm being honest. And, you know, if it ends now, that's great. You know, if it was a choice between ending now or limping on with subpar stories, I'd definitely prefer it to end now. We see it so often that, you know, series carry on trying to milk it when the wells run dry, and that's a mixed metaphor. But you get what I mean. I think it would be better, you know, to just say, that's enough. You know, that's enough for now. I mean, maybe, you know, the odd special here and there down the line, why not? But I'm getting ahead of myself, as usual. You know, we're not even at the end yet. We've got 5 more of these to go, and I do hope you join me for all of them. I read, you know, pretty much all the comments that come my way. Even if I don't reply, I do read them, and sometimes they inform, you know, my thoughts going forward. I may use them in future, and any suggestions for material is always welcome. So Like I say, I hope you join me next time, but until then, as always, take care.